Welcome back to Caffeine Confessionals. My name is Allan, and today we're here to talk about the Challenge All-Stars Season 4, Episode 3. I'm joined by my lovely co-host. We have the Southern Luke Muncie,
What's up, guys?
the Vermontian Zoe Trimboli.
Hi, everyone.
We only had to wait 1 week for this All-Stars episode compared to the 15 months we had to wait for the whole season for episodes 1 and 2. But All-Stars, it's rolling. It's going along. The show is filled with drama. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, so far so good. I've already seen episode 5, and this is episode 3, so I'm sure episode 4 is going to stay good too. So, I think that we've got a good season on our hands.
I'm going to keep forgetting that you've already seen episode 5, so that's terrible. I thought it was great. I think it's just proof that we have good characters on this show, on this season, that so early on it's engaging. I'm so excited to see where we go from here.
We haven't even scratched the surface either. That's the crazy part, because there's been a lot of big personality moments, some drama, some fights. I mean, we literally had someone leave the house last week because of drama within the house with Janelle being leaving because of Ayanna, and yet we're just still building up to some of the biggest fights and storylines that are being teased in the trailer so far. And I'm already enjoying it, but things are about to get a lot crazier real fast.
For sure. Definitely some standouts, definitely some that are hiding in the shadows right now, but I think it's coming together nicely.
Yeah, there's definitely, I think, some bits of drama that some people would have rather avoided, but there's some characters that just are guaranteed to bring it every time.
Yep. Jumping straight into the episode, someone I was hoping would be messy because he's been messy in the past, Tony. Unfortunately, we didn't really get to see Tony get messy at all, as he's leaving the game because of a family emergency. To me, it's disappointing to see him just leave the game, because I was excited for Tony's return, because we hadn't seen him since Final Reckoning. I know that we clowned on him last week for being corny in the daily challenges, but he was giving me someone to root against a little bit on this cast. I was really, because Tony is very clearly one of the youngest people in this cast. He's kind of the outsider, and I was hoping to see him lose and get humbled by some of these older people. We didn't even get that. He just leaves the game and he's gone.
Yeah, and not that we're owed an explanation, because obviously it's personal reasons, but I do like to know, because I'm nosy and I watch the show to know people's real lives. Even if he had a confessional later to be like, so this is what was up, I had to go, whatever. But it was so abrupt, it didn't seem to matter.
Agreed. I know it's a personal thing, but give me a tiny idea of what it is. I don't need to know all the gory details, but I need to know that it's legit, I guess. And I guess it's like you said, it's none of my business, but I'm nosy too. I'm a Gemini. I need all the information. So yeah, and I was optimistic that he was going to give me more reasons to validate my not liking him. And I also think that the male field took a massive hit with him
For
leaving.
sure. Well, and I have to question, I shouldn't say question. I shouldn't question, but in the back of my horrible mind, I do question. I'm not saying Tony did this, but one could possibly go on the show for the appearance check and be like, hey, a week into this, call production and send me home. I can't be here this whole time. I still want that check. I want to be here. And I'm not saying Tony did that, but I think of Zach on War of the Worlds, where he was supposed to go to that wedding. He was supposed to do all these eliminations. He didn't, but then he did because he really had to get back to that wedding. I think not knowing, again, we shouldn't be privy to people's personal information, but it makes my mind wander a million different ways.
I think if this was the flagship, I would totally agree with you. It's hard for me to picture someone coming on All Star, especially Tony looking at this field of male competitors and be like, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's doing anything that interesting or important at home that he's gotta get back.
Fair. And just to reiterate, please don't comment and say, oh, how dare you say that? I'm not saying he faked it. It just makes my mind wander. He probably had a legitimate reason.
Just
completely. I mean, we've been privy to, I would say we know more about Tony's personal life than almost many challengers, because we know about his brother, we know about his baby mama because she was on the show, we know about his, what MTV called his stalker turned fiance, and now mother of his kids. Like, we know a lot about Tony, and it's just what's been presented in front of us because it's just his life has been in front of us for such a long time. That's why we feel, I think, a little bit extra nosier. If this happened to someone from like a Romanian cast member on season 39, we wouldn't care if they had a family emergency. There's investment and knowledge of Tony that may be interested of what's going on in his life.
We know about his house too. Like
Yeah.
we everything he's been through in like a major way, we've been privy to. So yeah, it was weird for it to be like this like cagey thing where he couldn't tell us. But I hope all is well.
Yeah. Right.
He tells one person before he's leaving, and that's Nicole. They did their real role together. They're supposed to be very close. Nicole takes it very emotionally, very hard. And then Laurel goes to console her, and we see the Laurel and Nicole relationship begin to mend. And I do wonder a little bit if production maybe edited in some of these confessionals for, like, maybe this is a confessional that happened in a few weeks from now, and they're putting in here because it just seemed weird how they were at each other's necks just a day ago, and now they're like this.
It's okay. So it's not bad to console someone. Sure. Like, I'm not going to be the world's biggest hater, but it's not like Nicole's in the house alone. She's said that Jay is also one of her closest people. Laurel didn't need to take on that role to be her confidant, her encourager. Like, it, I'm not saying Laurel's doing this, but I am going to allude to it. It's like she's trying to weasel her way back into Nicole's good graces because she wants the attention from Nicole. Like, she wants Nicole to view her as number one, and it could just be purely game. I don't know, though.
I think you're right on the money. I think it's like this weird emotional thing. And I think that she wants to be in control of the situation. So she wants Nicole to pursue her. And she wants to have the power to say no. The problem is if she wants all that, she doesn't want to say no either. It's messy. Like, there's just no reason. Like you said, there's no reason for her to be the one to console Nicole at this point.
Right.
I think she was trying to like prove that she was so like mature and like above whatever they've had going on, and maybe that's not fair of me to assume that, but it's weird. Like,
yeah, and I know I sound hypercritical of Laurel this week and last week, but she has subjected us to how she feels about Nicole even before this season filmed, and she made all her tweets post this season filming. Like, we know all the bad stuff that's happened. I can't watch this in good faith and say, this is a smart decision. This was well thought out. You are doing the right thing. It just seems icky.
I mean, it's so hard when you look at someone like, this aren't even people that I know or particularly care about, but like, someone is like moving towards something that's so bad for them and so toxic, and it's so like, when I've been in that position as a friend, it's so hard. And it's hard even just as a viewer in this scenario to watch her like walk towards someone is only going to cause her pain.
And I just thought too, we're also probably even more critical because we have seen the aftermath on Twitter. It's not going to work out for them. So it's like watching a train collide into whatever.
Even just using Exit on the Peak as an example, like, you could leave social media totally out of it. What we've seen on TV, we know is toxic.
Yeah. It started toxic. Ugh, yeah, they're bad for each other.
Yeah, and you're starting out right out of the gates as someone's like confirmed second choice. You are the consolation prize. That is a recipe for success.
Yeah.
Well, talking about second choices, MTV's brought in their alternate, and it is Cyrus, who's been on 2 previous All-Star seasons. A true, like, one of the biggest like challenge, like OGs. He's looking great. I want to say this as well. Like, Cyrus has lost a lot of weight from All-Stars 1 and over the last couple of years. He's dropped probably like 30, 40 pounds. He's in the best shape of his life at 50. Looking good, and just seems like a nice dude.
Yeah, I hope he does well.
I have to say, on like a personal level, I find it so inspiring, honestly, when these people do get in wicked good shape at that point in their life. Like if you're sitting around at 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 and you're like, oh, like I'm never going to be able to do XYZ. Like these people are just shattering that illusion. Like it's total bullshit. And I think it's so cool. Regardless of what he does on the show, like I just am so impressed by someone that takes control of their life in that way at that age. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it might be because he's got a baby on the way, or maybe he's already had the baby. Yes,
Luke,
no?
if any of us knew, it would be you.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, that he's recently had a child.
I believe you.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Cyrus is kind of like a WWE character. Like he comes out, he gives these speeches like, "Oh, for me, I'm not, I'm not hoping to win. I expect to win," type stuff. He always gives speeches like that, and he plays into the OG personality. It's just, I don't believe it because, like, no offense, I've seen him compete on this show over the years, but he remains committed to the bit, which I respect at least, because at least he stays like in character at all times.
If he was gonna replace Tony, you gotta at least have that part
Right.
locked in.
Right after this, though, we have the daily challenge, and so you want to break it down?
Yeah, so they're playing dominoes in pairs, but it's not quite that simple. So there is a domino at the center, and they have a something at their starting position. They have something like 12-ish dominoes, let's say, but they're giant, and it's a little bit of cardio, a little bit of planning, but so they have to get a train of dominoes to connect from their starting point to the center domino. They do have a couple extra ones mixed in there, so if they make a mistake somewhere along the way, everything gets screwed up. So, yeah, there's that.
And they were allowed to pick their own pairs, which I thought was actually very interesting because it showed you the dynamics of
Yes.
who's aligned with who. You guys want to talk about the pairs right now, or do you guys want to talk about it as we talk about the placements?
I'd say let's say the pairs. I thought they were interesting.
Yeah, and I think I'm so pro, just for the record. Anytime it's a paired challenge, they should get to choose their pairs.
I love it too. Or it's like the schoolyard pick either as well. Like so we could at least see, like we talked about like last season, of like how do people view people within the house strength wise. Brad and Rachel paired up, and I think they thought they were just going to dominate physically. Leroy and Cam decided to split up from one another because they thought, well, if we end up in the bottom together, people are just going to throw both of us in. Also important to note that this episode is a double elimination.
Yeah.
So Cam took Ryan and Leroy took Flora, which I will say, if you're going to split up, I would maybe not have taken those partners. I think I would have rather just competed together than compete with Flora and Ryan.
That was the dumbest. Like I knew they would not work together based on how they acted on Devo Agents. What? Put Ryan with Flora and there's a team guaranteed to like place lower than you. What?
How did Leroy end up with Flora? Like how? I'm looking at this cast of women and I'm like, you would have been better off with Jasmine, even. Like,
I wonder if they thought that Cam and Leroy would pair up together and then people just like ditched them and like found other people. And then it was like, hey, Ryan, hey, Flora, arguably the two weakest people from each sex in the house.
I'll be curious if moving forward, they have a plan of who they're going to try to get for their partner if there's another paired challenge like this.
Right.
Yeah, the Flora contingency plan of like this is how to avoid Flora in the future. Some of the other pairs, Cara picked Ace, but they're actually friends because they used to both live in Montana together. Jay and Nicole, because they're friends. Laurel and Brandon have a friendship that goes back to, I think, Fresh Meat 2 a bit, and also like on this cast, Brandon is actually one of the stronger men.
Yeah,
Veronica and Derek were a pair. Steve and Jasmine, Tina and Kifla. Cyrus was with Ayanna because I mean Cyrus was the only one who didn't see what happened with Ayanna last week, so he was probably game to be her partner. And then Adam and Avery were a pair, which as we talked about in our cast preview, anyone who's been online can see they're a couple now. So
and he just tweeted He just tweeted like the cutest thing about her the other day. Like someone said something about how beautiful she is, and he just went on this like a long message basically about how like that's the tip of the iceberg and like her real beauty is her inside and just how loving and sweet she is. And I was like, oh my God.
Like, I love it. And seeing this, I was like, oh my God, this is the start of something beautiful.
It's so sweet. Like his picture on Twitter, I think, is like the picture of him and her and his kids together.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. Also, I liked him more when I went on Twitter and I saw his name is Datum Larson.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
He sent me a Facebook friend request out of the blue. I have not messaged him since because I don't use Facebook like that. But
his age group does, so.
Yeah, I know. I was a little bit afraid. I'm like, did I? Because I was thinking about it because I have 8 years of blogging on my hand. I'm like, did I ever write anything mean about Adam in 8 years? I was afraid.
If so, he could take it.
Yeah.
He seemed pretty even keeled when I saw him in Charlotte. He like just kind of stood there, which no shame in that. But yeah, he didn't seem to care much.
And let's talk about the daily challenges. I've been loving Adam this season, and him and Avery destroyed the daily challenge physically and mentally. I mean, so this daily challenge took just a baseline ability of brains, and it took a lot of cardio and heart, which was very similar to the first daily challenge of the season, which I'm not a big fan of it being a little bit repetitive in that way. But Adam and Avery just like they crushed it. They were out of the park. They were working well as a team, and it's awesome because that's like basically 2 daily challenge wins for each of them. Like they're really setting the pace, and this is I mean as much as I could have hoped for Avery as like a big fanboy.
It was same. The first episode, she got third for the women, and she's like, I've never been top anything on the show ever. And now this is the second time in 3 episodes. Like this could be the Avery Renaissance.
When she said that on the first episode, I was like, give yourself a break, girl. The sample size is small. One.
Correct.
But like they performed the way in this challenge that Brad and Rachel thought they were going to.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And that's what I meant when I said there you needed a baseline amount of brains because Brad and Rachel didn't get their dominoes ordered in the right way possible, and they were just messed up from there. Which I will say those dominoes were much heavier than you expected because they were not having an easy time moving them around once they were set down.
Yeah, that was clear. I was thinking potentially that their cardio was going to be so good though that them taking 3 extra laps, they still could have come in the top 6. But I think they were also frazzled because like the more people start to finish, the more you start to panic. And especially if you're trying to find a mistake, I think that's a lot harder than just trying to get to the point where you're done. You want me to go through the order?
Yeah. Second place was Cara and Ace, right?
Yep.
I mean, no disrespect to Ace. Actually, a little bit of disrespect to Ace. I don't really think Ace is a good player at all, which made me very impressed by Cara because she just was like again beasting through this daily challenge. Happy for Ace, but I think if he had a different partner, I don't know if he comes out in second. Cara just continues to be like at the top of the pack. And I mean, she was even saying it during the daily challenge, like she just saw the numbers, she saw the pieces, she just was putting them all together. Cara's a beast.
Yeah, I had the same impression that it didn't matter who her partner was, that she was literally carrying the weight probably, but yeah, he just had to keep up with her. That was the only thing he had to do. So good for him.
Was third Jay and Nicole?
Yep.
They were also.
I was just gonna say, Jay, an impressive showing thus far as well.
Yeah, because we know there's only brains on one half of that team. Like,
yeah.
I refuse to give Nicole any credit for any thinking going on until I see evidence that it happens. So I'm giving Jay all the credit, which is saying something.
Yeah.
It also Tony leaving this game really does like me watching this daily challenge, and I'm like, oh yeah, Jay's one of the better guys here because I'm looking at some of the other guys around there, and I'm like, that guy's not good. That guy's not good. That person doesn't have cardio. That person doesn't have a brain.
He's suddenly in that top tier of guys you want as your partner, which is wild.
it's something. It's bizarre. But you know what? Kudos to him.
Like consistently outperforming Leroy so far this season. I hate to say it. I want it to not be true, but it's what's happening.
Yeah.
Was Laurel and Brandon fourth?
Yep, right behind him.
Good job by them for not coming in last, but I've been a little bit underwhelmed by Laurel this season.
Agreed. Yeah, it seems like she's not that impressive. I mean, I know that you don't want to see her in elimination ring, but yeah, very underperforming from what we've come to expect from her in dailies because she's been so dominant in dailies throughout her history on the show.
And she did win last week. It's just these two cardio heavy daily challenges. She hasn't wowed me in a way where I think she can win a final based on her performance in this and that daily challenge. I wish she was doing a little bit better, especially because I think Brandon, like if you're gonna do well with him, it's something it's a daily challenge like this. Hell, we were just hyping up Jay. I mean, like you should do better. You should do better with Brandon. And then Jasmine and Steve came in fifth.
Yep.
Great moment for them because I think they've been bottom two of the first daily challenges.
I think it was huge for Jasmine specifically.
I feel bad for Jasmine so far in the season because it's clear that she is, I don't want to say the worst because Flora's there, but like just her size alone compared to these like super beastly women who have done great things on the show, like she just can't really amount to them in that respect. So this was big for her.
Yeah. I'm looking at these other names of these women. I'm just like, what could Jasmine possibly beat these people in? And like, she could get a good matchup and say beat someone who's way more out of shape in some sort of cardio based thing. But I mean, again, how stacked this women's cast is, and she's also not very good. So it's just like scary for her.
Yeah.
But she came in the top heap in this challenge, so good for her and Steve.
Correct me. Well, maybe it's the next group that got sixth place, I guess. Who was that laid the dominoes out from like the center out? Was that Steve and Jasmine?
I know Cara and Ace had, I don't know, I think they might have actually like, somebody I think might have gone back and forth, which I wasn't necessarily, like that's kind of smart. It started like something in the beginning and then something on the other end and worked their way towards the middle.
Yeah, I don't know who that was, but I just want to say that was really smart. Like watching that, I was shocked that nobody else took that strategy because it looked like they could look around and see.
I'm surprised no one else picked up on Ryan and Cam's. Well, I'm not necessarily no one else. Some people did, but Ryan and Cam's strategy of laying it out at the beginning rather than running all the way up there and screwing it up. Like that made perfect sense to me. That's every time someone's trying to solve like a stand-up puzzle and they're doing it on the thing instead of doing it on the ground. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's always been a Cam like slow and steady type strategy. That was like what she did in her elimination with Kaylee against Brad and Kyle when they had to climb up the board and do all the math. It's always been very, take your time. And her and Ryan squeaked out that last spot. I was happy for them because it meant that both her and Leroy wouldn't be at the bottom. Our bottom teams ended up being Cyrus and Ayanna. The three Mean Girl teams, Veronica and Derek, Tina and Kifla, Rachel and Brad, which big shocker, and then Leroy and Flora.
I was only really shocked about Rachel and Brad. The rest like made sense to me.
Yeah, I think it's a toss-up when you start having names, but all the teams had a weak part, and then some of them had two weak parts. And then some people I was like, I can't really picture them working together particularly well. Not like badly, but just there's no chemistry there. This felt like a lot of the leftover teams, other than Brad and Rachel and whatever the hell happened to Leroy with Flora. It'd be so funny, like, just when TJ was talking about the losing teams, when he goes, like, he's, like, mentioning all the people in the bottom and goes, my man Leroy. Like, he cannot even begin to contain how hard he's rooting for Leroy, which I love.
And correct me if I'm wrong, when TJ still lives in Vegas, but when Leroy lived in Vegas, didn't they hang out like outside of the show, like as actual friends?
I
Yeah.
mean, they are, if there's any vibes that match up, like they're both so chill and down to earth. Like their friendship makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
I believe TJ even said that like Leroy, because he was in Vegas after his real world season, even, and TJ had met Leroy multiple times before he even was on Rivals One. So that's why when like Leroy was on Rivals One, TJ was like very quickly hyping him up. Like, oh, this guy, I like this guy. I like this guy's like, the cut of his jib. It's just that's I love that Leroy, I love that TJ loves Leroy as much as I love Leroy personally. So
Well, and I love that this is the second season in a row that TJ really is just being so biased. Like last season, it was when Cara came in, when Nerys went into all those eliminations. He just didn't hide it because what does he care? He just shows up, gets paid, does his thing, does his voiceovers, goes back.
And I think the fans like it more when he has an opinion or when he shows like any emotion at all. So it makes for a better viewing experience. So keep it up, Tej.
I did see someone recently tweet or like respond like, "Man, it's crazy how much TJ's inputting his emotions on this challenge All Stars 4." And I'm like, it's very clear you did not watch season 39 because he was very much, I mean, he was looking at Olivia with death stares.
Well, and to that point,
no.
I was going to say to that point, I can remember several seasons in a row where people were like, TJ needs to go. He's the worst host ever. TJ could never compete with a CBS type host, which he still probably couldn't. But I really feel like for whatever reason, this space he's in now, he's in his own element. Like even when he was hosting USA 1 and 2, like I felt like he was still like just better than even Final Reckoning TJ.
I think there's something about these all-star seasons too that like just being with the familiar faces and it not being so overproduced that it brings out more authenticity.
I agree.
The pendulum has swung because I will say even our podcast was like talking about TJ on I think Double Agents around that time period, especially when they had the skull twist, which was terrible. Like it was just like I really couldn't care for TJ, and now I do feel like he's actually helping the show. There was a point where I feel like he was holding it back, and now I feel like he's hit a new like he's doing good again.
Mm-hmm.
He'll find a way to piss me off again, I'm sure, but like overall, I'm pro TJ at this moment.
Yes, same.
So Adam and Avery get the win. Those are our losers. We get a bunch of the middle group. We come out of the daily challenge with now people have to decide who's going to go into elimination. Brandon overhears Ayanna just very loudly talking, just very loudly saying, "We got to split up that Leroy and Cam alliance. We got to get them basically into elimination." People report this back to Cam. Cam, I think, rightfully takes offense to it because that's an attack on them.
And Ayanna was also in the first episode, like staring at Cam with stars in her eyes, telling her she's looking at a champion and like hyping her up and gassing her up and doing all this weird fake bullshit.
Which, to be fair, then in the second episode, Leroy lost his absolute shit on her. So maybe I get it, but it seemed like they recovered after that. So I'm with you. It just seemed like her being fake and just for no reason.
Yeah, I think the exact phrase she said was something like people are saying that we should, and that's just the part they caught. So the part that the cameras actually caught, people are saying that we need to split up Cam and Leroy. But regardless, like you said something to that effect. People did hear you. You said it, I think. I can't tell at this point if she knows she said it, but she did. And Cam is a real one and takes it right to her.
Privately even. Like does not take it to the whole house, pulls her aside to have a conversation as mature humans do.
Which Ayanna, realizing she's going to be in some mess in this moment, she immediately tries to pull the card of, "Oh, is this going to be game talk? I'm too tired to talk about game right now," as just the way to her try and avoid the actions of her words. And Cam's like, no, we have to confront this right now. Which then we have the blow up where Ayanna.
Can we pause?
Yeah.
And I hate to do this because we're talking so naturally. We had a bar scene before this, correct?
Yes.
And I just want to say, seeing Cam, Cara, Laurel, and Rachel in the same shot, like, did something to me where I was like, this right here, like, I'm not even like bullshitting or recency bias. I'm not saying this is the Mount Rushmore. I'm not. Seeing those four in the frame, I was like, these are four women who have like got a hold on the challenge and will forever, despite whatever happens. It was just like this ethereal moment of craziness from this converse. Go for it.
Well, like that is All Stars. Like
Yes.
that moment you're describing is what that this iteration of the show needs to be. Because like, what encompasses the term All Star more than you just getting starry eyed talking about those four women sitting together?
Literally, like, and from that natural conversation happened about Ayanna. Laurel was messy with her glass of wine, went into the little camper thing and had that conversation, which kickstarted the house thing. Like, it just is editing that makes sense. It doesn't seem contrived. And like, it just is all meshing together so well. So yeah, sorry to backtrack, but like, I had to say that. I was literally just like, this is craziness to me.
Great scene, Luke. No. Good backtrack. Great scene. And also, like, again, music in these scenes when the stuff's going on, even the background, really just enhancing the experience. Because I was vibing. I was like, I had my drink in hand. I'm like watching it, trying like, oh, this is getting messy. This is getting good.
Why did they play Lucky at the beginning? What was going on there?
Oh,
She's lucky.
so because Tina got her
Okay,
her
yeah.
star without having to win, which I will say, I was just singing it the whole time. Lucky's a banger.
When Domino came on during the Daily Challenge, I was like bopping in my living room.
Yeah, so good. So I guess I'll go back to where I took us away from. As Cam is, I don't even want to say confronting Ayanna, like having a conversation with Ayanna, she starts calling people in. She starts breaking the fourth wall a whole lot and looking at the camera. And it's like, that has to be done so seldomly on this show. And like, it can't be in the midst of everybody around you. Like, if you're by yourself and you look over and say something like, okay, haha, funny, but you're in a room with people who are actually on the same show as you and you're breaking the wall while they can hear you, it just didn't make sense. And I might be getting ahead of myself. We can totally go back. Jasmine just walked in the room. And this is the thing that pissed me off more than anything that Ayanna has done this entire time. We didn't see what happened with Janelle, so I can't fully call on that because who actually knows? For her to throw in Jasmine's face that she stayed up late at night talking on the phone through her divorce, that is not a separation of game versus what's actually happening here. And
No.
Jasmine's reaction was totally fair for her to do that on screen, mind you. Like, knowing that there are cameras there.
Remind me, did Jasmine bring that up to another person or in a confessional?
In a confessional, which I think she probably said after this happened, but they did air it before. But like, it just is gross. It's gross.
Yeah.
I don't.
No, it's grimy. It's a shitty thing to do, and it's like, but it's also weird because the stuff she was saying, like, I don't even think is worthy of like an insult. Like, she's just saying like Jasmine's calling me and like venting to me, and like it's stuff that like I don't know how it becomes like I'm gonna make this a negative thing. Oh,
Right.
you're just describing this person's human moment and I was someone they thought they could count on. So like all you're doing is making yourself look bad by trying to turn that into something negative and throwing it in their face in this moment.
Yes, and I'm honestly shocked that productions left this in here because again, she just had her double mastectomy. I wish her the best. We all do. As a character, we're going to discuss because it's in the edit. We have to. They did her so dirty when she was like, I swear on all four of my children that I did not say that. And then they cut to her saying nearly verbatim what she's denying saying. Not a good look at all.
Well, it makes me wonder if she really like knows she's lying.
I don't know because I went back and rewatched episode 1 and 2, and like she's very clear in her confessionals that she is making up every single thing about Janelle just for her game benefit. I think that she really thinks this is good strategy.
after episode 1 and 2 aired, she posted online like, does she regret any of it? It's like, nope, everything I did was absolutely right in the moment. I would do it the same way again. She said essentially online, like after all this stuff. I truly believe Ayanna isn't. She is lying, but she just believes everything she's saying, even in the moment. But god damn, she's just in her own world.
Well, Mike, you sent me a screenshot this morning of her replying to a comment where she's like, I never said any of that stuff that people are alleging against me. None of it is even remotely true. And it's like, if you got a whole house of people reporting back that these things happened.
Also, I'm just going to put this out there. Leroy, Cam, Brandon, Janelle, all very level-headed people. Like, not dramatic, not gonna just like make things up for a storyline, not even prone to exaggerations. So just I will believe them a million times over because we've seen how they behave and we've seen how she behaves.
Well, and it's funny you say that about Brandon. When she calls him in there to confront him, he's like, I've not spoken to you in 4 days. Like, there's no chance that I said anything. I've not spoken to you, which hints at the underlying, hey, something really messed up must have happened for him to not even speak to her. I just think it's a spiral. And in this moment, as a viewer, I'm like, please vote her in. Please send her home. Just because, full transparency, I don't want to feel these negative thoughts towards someone who is going through what they're going through. But we can't escape what we're being shown.
And I think if we didn't have this cast that's so dynamic, I would maybe be concerned about a loss of entertainment value with her. But I think there's plenty of people who can take that up without her, and it won't feel icky.
Right. And I've had to consider too, like, I like dramatic, delusional people. I'll say it again and again. I really think, and not to keep harping on this, but I'm rationalizing as I speak. I have to think if she weren't sick, I could maybe enjoy this more. Just like to see her as like a villain type character on a show. But I, as a viewer, don't love having to have those feelings considering just real world context.
That's fair.
Someone in the house did stick up for Ayanna through all this, though, specifically in confessionals. Actually, I want to say this. Rachel Robinson, we see her relationship with Ayanna throughout the episode, but she also has a specific confessional where she's like going to bat and saying, "Hey, I'm your friend," etc. That confessional itself seemed like it was recorded after the season. Just the way she was talking and the way she was looking to the camera, the way it was specifically worded, I feel like that was recorded after the show. It might not have been, but it was just different from every other confessional I've seen this season.
I didn't pay enough attention to comment.
I'm hesitating to say what I'm thinking because I think it's going to sound mean, but Rachel's friendship towards Ayanna feels like pity. It feels like I think this person's a little bit off their rocker, and I know I'm a stable person, so I can be a source of like support and comfort for this person even if I don't get anything out of this friendship.
I could see that. And perhaps just even based off of the conversation about her like having to coach her through and to speak or not. Like, I don't have those conversations with my friends because like I trust my friends that they know when to speak and when not to speak. I think that while it probably is rooted in some pity, it's also like, shoot, this is somebody I wanted to be a number for me. Let me now try to coach them through this, and maybe that looks like me saying I'm their friend. And I could be totally wrong because Rachel's the person who started Ayanna's GoFundMe, and it was fully fulfilled. But like I'm with you. It doesn't seem like they're actually friends. And Ayanna saying she loves Rachel so much because she followed her fitness program. It's more so like, this is gonna sound really messed up, but like she's a fan and she's the person who's meeting her fan and wants to like nurture that fan. And like it doesn't seem like a friendship like Rachel has with Veronica.
They're not on levels.
Yeah. So Ayanna lost probably like 40, 50 pounds between All Stars 2 and now. And she said like she's been talking to Rachel a lot through the fitness journey too, and they're in constant contact. And I could see Rachel just being a good personal trainer, having that emotional commitment. And when you see someone who you've like emotionally committed to their fitness and you've seen them do well on that aspect, it'll probably distract you from some of the bad stuff they're doing. And I could say that as someone who's like, I've worked as a tutor where I was really invested in some kids' lives, and I've coached some kids where I was like really invested in their lives, and sometimes I didn't notice some of the red flag stuff they were doing in their lives because I was like, no, this is a good kid. I spend all this time with them. I've seen them work hard. I've seen them do all this stuff, and
That's actually helpful. I can see what you're saying.
I'm so glad you said that because like that's something verbatim I've said when I was coaching softball. Like I don't care who they are outside when they're not with me. I care the person they show, like what they show up with to practice. Obviously, I do care that they're good people, the kids that I coach, but like I'm not gonna hold against them the things that I've heard about them or the perceptions other people have of them when this is the person they're showing up with me. So I'm glad you said that because I think there's some validity to that. But if Ayanna was doing the things people were saying she was doing in front of Rachel, that gets a little tricky.
Right.
And maybe that's what we're sensing more than anything, that like there's tension there and Rachel like feeling torn maybe in a certain way, but still wanting to support this person that they have supported through this journey. So yeah, I'm glad we talked that through because I think it is a little more nuanced.
Agree.
Ayana is something though that could hold Rachel's game back because she is a liability. Tina and Veronica, although they're her best friends, Tina's been in the bottom 3 times. Veronica's been in the bottom twice already in this season. They, in ways, even though they are her alliance, can be liabilities to Rachel's game. Um, her game's just like kind of a mess, and also the one winner aspect has the men not as friendly with Rachel as they would typically be because she's one of their biggest threats to win the game.
She is Rachel Fitness, like that's scary. I can't help but think that Rachel would have been much better off on this season without Tina and Veronica, because she would have much more easily slid into that group with Cam and Laurel and Cara, and I think they would have kind of been a pack for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But we
And
are here.
which we see then Cara, who has a star, she knows there's a good chance Rachel will be going into elimination because uh, she's a big target. And Cara essentially is like, hey, I think people with stars should look out for people with stars, which I will say, like, I actually love seeing that from Cara because historically she has not had the best individual social slash political game. We only really saw her get better at that once Paulie was around. This is Cara being proactive.
I've already talked to Zoe about this, but and we'll talk about this later as well. This episode really made me look at Cara like a smart individual who like is navigating the best game for herself. This moment specifically, it's like, yeah, and you're gonna want to keep what looks like the other strongest girl there because that could be a shield for you even.
Yeah, she looks like the most grounded and confident that I've ever seen her on this show. Like I love that she's playing her game for her, and she still has these relationships and she's still like getting along with people and maybe having friction with people. I don't think we've even seen that, but I just love that she's like really making an effort to play this game for herself, to put herself in the best position to win. And I think that was the right move to protect Rachel at this point in the game, because you're right. If Rachel goes, the target is now on her.
I just love seeing it. It's proactivity. It's like it's evolution. It's like Kara is solving the problems that she's had for years and actually working on it. Um, uh,
Have the two of them done a season together before? Like the only one I can think that maybe they did would be the X's one.
yeah,
Okay.
which that was just a weird season for both of them because Rachel was with Anissa and Kara was, I think, an emotional mess that season with Abram, and there was a whole lot more going on there. So,
Right.
yeah. Yeah, it's basically their first season together. It's interesting to see the dynamic between the two. they then go into having the nomination ceremony, to which I'll say like a little thing from the Cam Ayanna fight that tags on to here. At one point, Ayanna said like, "Oh, Cam, I have real friendships and relationships in this house that will carry me. Unlike Instagram, fake friends, pregame alliances." Everyone voted for Ayanna. Literally every single person voted for Ayanna.
And even people who she might have considered friends, who might have considered her a friend, I think this is a testament to what she did on episode 1 was so heinous that no one wants to keep her around or like risk their neck for her.
It was Brandon, right? That said, if I could vote for Ayanna twice, I would.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that pretty much says it all. I think everyone sitting there felt that way.
Yeah.
And it's not like people weren't making emotional votes because the vote was already done at certain points, and someone was like, "Well, no, Rachel's been my friend for this many years, so I'm going to vote for Flora." Oh, well, I like Rachel and Flora this much, so I'm going to vote for Veronica. People were making like emotional votes, and everyone's emotions was vote Ayanna no matter what.
Yep. Which also important to note here that Cam was strongly pushing for Rachel to go against Ayanna to take her out. It makes total sense. When it got around to Cara voting, Cara did not vote for Rachel. And you could tell, I mean, anybody could tell, this really upset Cam. And I understand because Cara is supposed to be her friend, but I didn't understand making a fuss in front of people because she'd already gotten her way. And Zoe and Mia talked. Maybe they showed it out of order. But like, this is another instance of Cara playing a really smart game for herself. Like, Cam is still getting the outcome she wants. She's still making sure that her friend is not in a bad spot, but she's still honoring her pact with Rachel. I thought this was just intelligent, despite Cam being upset in the moment.
This, I feel like things were left on the cutting room floor for this deliberation because I don't understand Cam's reaction. I think even if things are shown out of order, like even if Cara had voted before we knew it was a foregone conclusion that Rachel was going in, that it doesn't make sense for her to take it so personally that Cara didn't simply vote the way she wanted. And I know a lot of people are saying like, I want to have your back, Cam. They're kissing her ass a little bit,
Right.
or there was something more to it that we didn't see.
Well, and I think too, maybe Cam was like, "Oh, so I'm not your number one girl." Like, and I know that is not; those two things don't have to like be the same thing. But in Cam's mind, it probably did. And I also have to contextualize. Cam was really pissed off because she's been personally attacked. We don't necessarily know what was said to Cam and Leroy in the first episode either. But it did seem strange and not like Cam, who's very like she is one of the smartest people to ever play this game, to have that reaction in front of a group of people, because that almost makes it where people will have the door open to go to Cam and be like, maybe we should get Cara next.
Well, and I can't help but wonder if it isn't emotional, if it is a little bit calculated. Is she seeing the favor that she has among this cast, recognizing Cara as a threat, and looking for a reason to flip?
And if so, smart for her game.
Yeah.
I thought both people were right in this circumstance, actually, because I think Kara's playing a very smart game. She's playing for herself. The deal she's making with Rachel, it's good for her gameplay as someone who has a star and is playing for themselves. But I do think Cam is right that like Cam and Kara have done all these seasons together, and Cam has been lockstep aligned with Kara, never taken a shot at Kara through all. Has she ever taken? I don't think she's.
Vendettas.
Oh, but that's her rookie season. I mean,
yeah, okay.
But Kara didn't go into elimination. Kara never went to like that.
Okay, well, I think but she's
Yeah.
still. I get what you're saying, but yeah,
She's never like actively tried to get Kara out in that sense. I mean, she's never made a move against her. I think maybe she threw a grenade once.
She threw multiple grenades, and again, I think they were friends after this out of necessity. I think Zoe said it on our cast breakdown. Their friendships never really made sense because they don't seem to have much in common. I think there's lots of respect, but I think Zoe said that too.
Yeah.
But I think if given the chance, either would throw the other under the bus.
It's and it's just really interesting to me. I felt like I was missing a piece of this puzzle. to really understand the emotion behind what was going on. But I totally support Cara's decision. I think it was the right thing for her game. But I think that she's in hot water moving forward.
Yeah, and I agree, and I also appreciate Cam maybe spinning this to have an excuse to take a shot at Cara.
Yeah, I think that's smart.
Because Cara's been a beast thus far. Like Allan said, like let's find a crack, and then I have some leverage to act like this wasn't out of nowhere.
I would also note that Cara has also like let Leroy out to dry a couple times in his challenge career, by being friends with Camilla after Dirty 30, by saving Kyle in the final elimination of Vendettas over Leroy, which Leroy was very angry of in that moment. So the relationship there is fragments there. There's some.
I think we always just think of the really happy group on World of Worlds 2 who just dominated the game together. And Leroy, just like by being with Cam, was part of that and like made the jump midway. Like, this is the group I'm rolling with. But yeah, you're right. This hasn't always been so happy go lucky.
That was a really interesting thing, though, because it really felt like a very reluctant decision during that season. He was like, I'm doing this for Cam, period. Like, right. I don't think I didn't get the vibe that he liked any of the rest of them other than Cam. He was just like, this is what my girl wants to do, so this is what I'm doing, but I'd rather be with them over there.
Yeah, but those numbers kept dwindling. But anyways, I'm excited to see how this plays out.
There's also a men's vote.
Yeah.
Kefla and Cyrus everyone agreed that's who's going in. They both knew it was happening, especially Cyrus, because he's like, well, I came in late, so I'm getting voted in. Kefla's like, I learned that there's politics in this game, so I don't have connections, so I'm going in. They did actually have
the battle of the great uncles.
I think they're a combined 100 years old in this elimination. Like, they had a really cute conversation, those two, before their elimination even happened, where they're like, man, we're finally on a season together. I think Kefla was the first ever black male competitor ever on the challenge, and Cyrus is, I mean, one of the true OGs of the game. And they're like, man, like I grew up watching you, like we were on TV together at the same time, but we've never done a season. And they just had a really cute conversation, just like really friendly. And I was like, I would really like to hang out with those two guys.
I think this was the second time in the episode that the fourth wall was broken also, because Cyrus looked at the camera again and said something, and I was like, what is in the air tonight? Like, what is going on? But yeah, it was a sweet conversation. It made me wish that they'd come into the house at the same time, but whatever. What are we gonna do?
What are we gonna do? We're gonna go to elimination right now, and the elimination was they put a ball inside of a giant cage, and players then had to run down the cage, push the ball through the hole of their opponent's opposing side. It was essentially like
It was a hall brawl.
Yeah.
Like,
it was
just with the padding of a ball.
Yeah, it was a gentler hall brawl, which honestly, with the ages of these competitors, I totally support. I actually really liked it as an elimination. I would like to see it again. I do want to briefly say also, though, Ayanna makes a comment after deliberations about why she's in there, and she says she's insinuating that she's going in because Cam is quote unquote loud and intimidating. And I was like, I think I literally dropped whatever I was holding at that moment, and I was like, are you not able to like look in the mirror and recognize that the two words that you just used are exactly how everyone else would describe you? Because the only reason people don't take their issues with you to you is because you're intimidating and they don't want to deal with whatever will come afterwards. Like, that is literally you.
The woman who was screaming at the cameras, at people who are not speaking to her, who yelled so loud the entire house came in the room.
The self-awareness is not in the room with us.
It is not.
And I fear it will never be with her.
Yeah.
Sorry, back to elimination. I wrote that down and I had to bring it up because it was.
No, it's important. It shows that she just is really not like aware of what's actually happening in this game.
Not one bit. People who were aware, though, Adam and Avery, daily challenge winners. TJ, I will say I do like that TJ gives the entire rules for the daily challenge and explains it, and then gives the daily challenge winners the chance to decide whether or not they want to go in. Adam, though, he already has a star, and he's seeing the size of Cyrus and Kifla, and he's like, no, thank you. Avery sees the size of Ayanna and Rachel, and there's like she sees those muscles, and she's like, no, thank you as well. I do wish the daily challenge winners got a little bit more like power for winning, because the fact that they like, I just wish there was something more for them than this.
Yeah, I know it's tricky with the different sizes of the teams and pairs in these daily challenges, but I wish that they could just as easily steal a star with a daily challenge win. But I know that that's hard when you're going to have fluctuating team sizes and stuff.
That would be cool for like a mini final, and like if they did like a true mini final and there's one winner, that person just gets a star. That would be a cool little like, and it could be a genderless star, just one extra star in the game. Maybe that would be a way to do it. But yeah, I felt bad because Avery crushed this daily challenge, and then she's like, "Do I want to face Rachel or Ayanna? Hell no."
Yeah.
And I will say there's going to be a point in this game where people are going to be throwing daily challenges so that they can get voted into elimination, because that's the way this game is eventually going to evolve. And then you're going to start trying to politically rally for votes.
Yeah, because if you're in that middle group, there's really no way to get a star at all.
But I guess the other side of that, though, is that when you win, you get the chance to choose to go in, choose your opponent, and know exactly what the elimination is.
Yeah. It prioritizes elimination, but like so does the show as a whole. So like I think that that's true.
And if we get to the point where the strong players have stars, which I think we will, especially on the women's side. I mean, it's not quite yet, but we will get there. None of them are going to be throwing challenges. They're going to be trying to protect it. And so all these other people would already be in contention to be in that group to go into elimination. So just a thought.
Yeah.
In the late game, I would really love to see someone with the star just throw themselves into elimination and try and just take someone else's star if there's like an easy win. That would be that. I just love the potential chess moves of this game. We get to elimination though. Let's start off with Cyrus versus Kifla. Was it Brandon who said it? It's like, Cyrus, you picked the wrong season to lose 30 pounds coming in.
For sure.
Kifla just was an absolute beast in this elimination. It wasn't just that he's like just built a muscle and is a super huge guy. He had the form down where he was getting low into when he was tackling the ball for leverage. Cyrus wasn't quite doing that, and Kifla just dominated the elimination.
He was a truck. At one point, Cyrus looked like he was maybe going to hold out a little bit longer. Someone said something about him weathering the storm and then being able to push Kifla all the way back to the other side. I was like, there's not a chance in hell that's happening unless Kifla literally passes out for some reason in this tube. Like, there's just, that wasn't going to happen. It was only a matter of time. But yeah, he just dominated.
It wasn't close.
Yeah, I was happy. Cyrus
actually, though, very funnily, like on his way out, basically just says like, I suck, I'm the worst at this. Like, I love the self-deprecation because I am not gonna harp on him more when he's like making fun of himself. And I don't think he's the worst. I think that he was literally outsized in this elimination. I think he would have at least put up a very good fight or beaten a lot of the other guys that were here.
For sure.
So
yeah, he self-deprecated, but also he properly gave props to Kifla. Kifla, I mean, like, we're talking about a guy who we haven't seen on this show in over 20 years, coming in, winning the first, like, they didn't have eliminations when he was on the show. So he comes in, wins an elimination. That's just dope. That's what All Stars is all about.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Want to talk about the women's eliminations?
Yes.
Rachel versus Ayanna, and this was actually a pretty good elimination. especially at the start, everyone was very stunned to see Ayanna holding her own, and
Even gaining a little ground on Rachel in the beginning.
Ayanna is a former collegiate track runner. Like, she is a natural athlete. She has that in her. Um, Rachel is a super fit athlete, and it was actually a very good dynamic of like someone who's an athlete, someone who's literally the peak of fitness going head to head against each other. Um, it was a good battle. It was a good battle, especially the first round. Um, I think I don't even know what I think.
I think that in the first round, Ayanna looked up in the stands and yelled at Cam and said, "If you want to get me out, come get me yourself." And like, here's the thing. That is a great thing to like yell and say if you end up winning, and also if it intimidates the person. For Cam to like look around and everybody busts out laughing, that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. And I'm sure it didn't happen right away, but in the edit, she loses the first round right after she says that. It's like, ooh, ooh.
Yeah. So I used to coach a player that had a lot of misplaced confidence. So much so that when they would swing a bat, they would sometimes close their eyes, literally. They had more strikeouts than any person on my team, but still, in batting practice, regularly closed their eyes when they swung a bat. And in my head, I was like, where is this confidence coming from? And that was kind of that moment with both Ayanna looking at Cam and just something about her expression in that tube with Rachel. I think if she had been a bit more humble, she could have been more successful in this elimination, because at one point she's like standing straight up, like trying to just block the ball instead of thinking about this elimination strategically. Like Rachel says verbatim, I know what to do. I need to get low and push with my legs. And like Ayanna has strong legs. That's what she should have been doing, but she was just in this surplus confidence space where she's just thinking that she's gonna beat Rachel based on like her vibes.
Gusto.
Yeah, it's just like
Well, and I do think it's sweet that like she was like chanting her children's name for motivation, but in the same sense, I'm like, you are also wasting energy by yelling out these names in a row. And like you're also letting Rachel know whenever you're exhaling, inhaling, like you're giving her more things that she can piece together to like know when to knock the ball, know when you're getting weak.
that
I
freaks me
just
out. Not gonna lie, the chanting of the children's names who you
swore
swore
on.
on their life.
I'm just trying to find some positive to say. And I already know because like I already feel it myself that people are gonna comment like you are being way too hard on her. It's literally just because of how episode 1 went. Like I can handle a cracked crazy person. I love a cracked crazy person, but that's when that person can still come down and be like, yeah, I was cracked and crazy. I don't think that she can.
People need to also realize we're watching the severely watered down version of whatever happened here. This is the severely watered. This is like
This is the edit to protect her.
and when they played True Colors with her chanting her kids' names as she held, actually, I will say she did hold out in that second round for a very long time. But yeah, Rachel pushed through, got the win. I'm happy because I mean, Ayanna, she did entertain me. I'm not gonna lie. Like the deliberation scene with Leroy last week, I was cracking up at multiple moments in that scene. Like she was entertaining, but it's been too much of a train wreck, and I want to move on from the train wreck.
And I want to stop talking negatively about someone who is going through real life problems now. Like it's really hard to separate the two because it's frustrating to watch her on my screen. So
and we can't ignore it because it's such a big part of the storyline. So yeah, I'm on the same page. I don't want to harp on her anymore. So I hope that she is very well and is healing, and maybe healing in more ways than one.
she posted on Instagram that she's been watching Nelson's videos for inspiration. So I would encourage her to find a different source of inspiration. But well, I'm just saying, like I wish Nelson the best as well too, but like, come on. Was that too crass? I don't know, but like, come
No,
on.
it's so legit. It's so legit.
Wish them both the best, by the way.
Wishing them the best.
Genuinely, by the way, like genuinely, I'm not being an asshole when I say that. I do wish them both the best.
All right. So we have some stars that got stolen. Well wishes to Ayanna. Some stars got stolen. They gave Kifla the chance to steal one, and Kifla swings big. He's like, "Well, this guy's a beast, so I'm taking Brad's star." And I respect the move. He's not afraid to make waves, unlike some people on this cast. And I like that Brad, even in the moment, was like, "You know what? Maybe getting a star early wasn't the best thing for my game, and that, maybe I should try and get one later on."
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the exact right move for him. And because he gives Brad so much credit in the moment, I don't see him getting blowback for it. I also think there's no one person in this house, other than maybe Cam, who has that much pull with anybody else. Like, it is a very, like, individual house in some ways. You obviously have these little micro alliances, but there's no power dominating group at this point.
Exactly. I will say, if there is an alliance, it is the Mean Girls. It's, with Rachel, Veronica, Tina, and they tell Rachel she has to steal a star. And
I think that's stupid, first of all. They're penalizing her for winning in that moment, which I think is lame.
Mm-hmm.
It's lame, but it did. There's going to be a moment in the game where that does create some good drama, I will say.
Yeah, no, and I get it. It's a TV show, so like I get it. They have to make that hard decision where me as a viewer who's rooting for Rachel is like, that sucks, but it does make better TV, so sure, yeah.
And this is also a week where we have a double, so it does, like, it made it harder on her because, like, it's one less option. Obviously, I don't think she would have stole from Brad, but it's one less option on the table. And Adam also won, so his star was safe as well. She's not stealing from Adam either because, as Veronica said, they're close with Adam. Rachel says, like, Steve is very close with Tina and their alliance as well, so she wasn't going to steal from Steve. She had that deal with Cara, which came into play here. This is, like, probably the biggest moment. She doesn't steal from Cara. She takes it from Tina and then just gives it to Veronica. So Tina and Veronica not doing anything right in this game, but they've had stars.
One of the funniest moments of the episode is from Tina also. Like, scream crying at the elimination, faking scream crying, like to the point where TJ even starts laughing, which is not always easy to do. Yeah. Luke and I talked about this.
Yeah, my first reaction is like, oh, she could have taken it from Cara and given it to Veronica, and then all the Mean Girls could have it. But Zoe quickly reminded me, well, then that makes them all the threat. And the smartest thing is to leave Cara with the star. People are going to take from Cara before Rachel. It's
yeah,
no brainer.
And she's had just struck this deal with Cara. And I just don't think it would have made any sense to make an enemy out of her when she just had your back. Like, it doesn't make sense. I know people, like, Cam makes a comment about her playing a scared game, and it's so early in this game. That is just simply a strategic move. Now, if you want to say it's not good strategically because you and Cara are making a very threatening duo that people are going to want to separate, then you could make that argument. I think that's totally valid. That it may have been smart of her to steal from Cara and them to have this agreement that we don't want people to see us as a duo. And Cara's gonna win, and she's gonna get something back. Like, or someone's gonna win another elimination and give one back to her. Like, there's so many opportunities moving forward. But I think that was exactly, as soon as they put her in that position, I was like, oh, just steal it from Tina and give it to Veronica. That is my exact thought I had.
We also saw the Mean Girls last week unsuccessfully kind of try to strong arm Avery. And now Avery's won 2 out of 3 daily challenges and looking like a threat. If you had her and Cara as people who are against you on top of just other people in the house, and you're just a very clear alliance, that would actually be, the odds would be mounting against them at that point. Smart, safe move, even though Cam doesn't think so.
Yeah.
I think she's a little threatened, thinking that Cara and her were going to be protecting each other at all costs. And I think Cara's just protecting Cara, which I really support.
I do too. It's like one of the first times she's truly done it without like. I mean, she's definitely played for herself, but it's always been like, but I've got to do this for this person or this person. Like
Or
she
she's
just is
racked with guilt while doing it.
right.
And I appreciate her just not putting on a performance of like, I have to feel bad about doing this because she doesn't.
Right. It's a game.
Or Cara has just played apolitically and just let big threats go to the final and beat her at times too. I don't think that's the case with Rachel now. I just think she's just trying to protect her star more or less. Yeah, that's her
And
episode.
I think that Cara's better than Rachel. Just to add that in there, like at this point, for like without a doubt.
If you watch that first and third daily challenge where you use cardio and you had to use some brain, Kara's outperformed her very clearly. Though there is a little bit of rust on Rachel, but yeah, Kara's outperformed her by quite a bit.
I think you could argue there's rust on Cara too, though. Like, not as much, obviously, but like a break from the show is a break from the show. And so for her to come back and perform at such a high level is very impressive.
Mm-hmm. Do we remember the scenes for next week? Because I don't.
I'm drawing a complete blank.
We'll just have to see.
It'll be like seeing it with fresh eyes.
That's our episode for the. Oh.
No, the only final thought I have, which is completely random, I just didn't remember when it happened. I didn't know how to bring it up. Does anyone know why Ayanna was wearing a trash bag at one point in this episode?
Was she like outside working out?
Was she?
I don't remember this, but like that's the only rationale I can think of.
Is that to protect their microphone? Do they make them do that? That doesn't make sense.
It's to lose more weight.
So you can sweat more.
Oh, thank you. Because I was like, she's walking around the house at one point. I'm like, why is she wearing a trash bag? Thank you. I'm sure somebody else noticed it, so I had to say it.
Fair.
Well, that's our episode for the week. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Apple, wherever you get this podcast. Have a great week, everyone. We'll be back next week for All Stars episode 4.